Good morning, everyone. As you know, our theme today, as you might have picked up, is peace, from Margaret's call to worship, and from the reading that we're about to hear, our gospel reading where Jesus speaks to his disciples after his resurrection and talks about what they must do after he is gone. He's talking about leaving his own peace and how that will come from doing as he has shown them while he was with them. Now, it's easy to think of peace as being simply not fighting or the absence of conflict. And of course, this is obviously a really important part of peace, as shown in all that Jesus did and said. But real peace, the peace that Jesus talks about, is more than that. And I'm going to tell you a wee story now about this. And this was kind of aimed at the young people, of which there are one or two in the room. But it's also a story in which us older ones play a part. So I hope you will bear with me and appreciate the story as it's told. It's a story about two children, and I'm just going to call them Callum and Martha because that suits me, went to their grans because their mum had to go out to work. And their mum said, before they left, she said, now, you need to behave. You need to give your gran peace and quiet. We heard that one before. So they did. They thought they were to tiptoe everywhere and not cause any fuss. And they thought they should whisper and keep quiet so that gran could have some peace. But it wasn't very exciting. And their gran wondered actually what was going on because she had expected them to be running around and jumping off the chairs and doing handstands on the settees as they normally did. Not that her own children had done that, can I tell you? However, she kind of wondered why they were being so quiet. And they said, well, we thought you'd want some peace. And she said, well, I quite like peace, but it doesn't mean that you have to be so quiet. Well, what do you mean? They said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I'll tell you, I'll show you what I mean. So they went to the kitchen and she got out her bowl and her flour and her sugar and her eggs and her milk, and they made some pancakes and they made a bit of a mess. If any of you have done that ever, you will know there's a mess everywhere, and they all tossed the pancakes and yes, plenty messy, but having a great time. And then their gran told them a story about pirates, so they went through to the other room and they turned some chairs upside down and they got in the chairs and pretended they were on a boat, and the boat was in a storm and they rocked about and the chairs fell over and they fell into the sea and they had to swim to the nearest dry land. And behind the settee they found buried treasure, which was excellent. Behind the settee they also found some spiders, so they went on a spider hunt which took them up the stairs into the bedroom, and they had drawers tipped out and they were just having quite a good time. During this time, of course, Mum comes back, and it was kind of like the three bears coming back into the cottage, you know, and she's, what is going on here? And she's messing the kitchen, messing all the other rooms, the tea's out from the wall, noise up the stairs. And she went upstairs and said, I thought you were going to give your gran some peace and quiet. But Gran said, no, wait a minute. They did. We've had a great afternoon. We've played safely. We've stayed friends, we've enjoyed ourselves, we've laughed a lot, and we've eaten too many pancakes. I've had a great time. I like peace, but I don't want quiet, and doing these things together is what peace is like. Enjoying each other's company, laughing together, feeling safe with each other, that's what it's like to live in peace. So, of course, they helped tidy up and said goodbye, and that was fine. I think it's really important to remember that peace is something we do as a community endeavour. It's about how we live with and towards each other. It's the grace that we need in order that everyone has enough, and the inclusion of those we might forget or exclude. When people go hungry, a community is not at peace. When there's such a gap between rich and poor that the poor become slaves to the demands of the rich, there is not peace in that community. Peace is a moral choice for society, and it goes beyond lack of conflict. And then there's inner peace as well, a richness of living that enables us to hang on to things less, to judge ourselves less, and be less concerned when others judge us. This is a relationship with the Spirit. So in both cases, this is not something the world can give, as Jesus says. It's what we create in the world from ourselves and from our choices to live in a particular way. In a minute, we're going to hear the words of Jesus in our second reading and think about, when John's reading them, think about what that means, that peace means for us and for our world. And in the songs that follow the reading, we haven't picked songs that have peace in them. There's lots of songs that say peace within the actual words, but we haven't done that. But what we're trying to use is songs that tell us about what we need to recognise and how we need to play our part in creating this peace. So as you're singing and as you're listening, be thinking about what this means for you in terms of creating peace in your world and in our world.